Hey everybody, I want to talk about a product and platform that I absolutely love and our latest sponsor, Interseller, the prospecting and outreach platform of choice for recruiters and sellers. Whether you're doubling down on business development or recruiting talent, Interseller does all the heavy lifting of finding contact data, automating the email and follow-up process, and syncs all that rich data into 20 plus CRM and ATS platforms. Reach out now and get going on a 2-week free trial and let them know you heard about it from Adam on the podcast today. Check out the link on the website. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast where I bring in the best and the brightest in the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. Stephynie Malik is the founder of S. Malik, not Smalik Enterprises, a crisis management firm that helps elite leaders and C-suite execs promote change through customer-focused strategies. She has over a quarter century, I'm saying that to make you feel old, of experience as a serial entrepreneur, starting during the height of Silicon Valley era, and we're going to dig into that, and founded her own management consultancy firm in 2003. And Stephynie has coached hundreds of top-tier leaders and is known as an expert negotiator and skilled crisis management consultant in her industry. She is also the host of Spin It podcast, where she breaks down the art of transforming a roadblock into a stepping stone for success. And there's a lot to learn about how to survive and thrive through crisis in this one person who has experienced it firsthand many times. So let's do this. Stephynie Malik, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if you do a side hustle and you can come do that on all my shows.
We were talking about before. I love doing the live read. It gets me into it. It focuses me in, and it just, because otherwise you're just kind of jumping into the show. I don't know, whatever. To each their own, right?
Gosh, Adam, that's fabulous.
So, the objective of the podcast is to unpack my guests' career journeys. For anyone joining us who is new, is to unpack the career journeys, talk about the early days, the lessons learned, and kind of look back and say, gosh darn it, thank God I went through that shit in my life because I learned something. So let's bring it back to the beginning and let's talk about the early days. And listen, Stephanie's talked about this on a lot of podcasts, but I think it's important for anyone listening here. Let's go to the early days and your origin story, your superhero origin story. So, your father unfortunately, passed away when you were very young. Your mother never fully recovered from it. And, that childhood was rough. Take us back to the age of 14 and 15.
Yikes. You got to start there.
I do. And here's the deal. The treasures are in our shit pit. The treasures are at the bottom, and we have to go deep here. So let's go deep, and then we'll bring it up.
For sure. No, I actually really like going deep. I appreciate that. So yeah, it wasn't, it wasn't Little House on the Prairie. It wasn't Leave It to Beaverland for sure. I think now that I'm so much older, Adam, I think that she did the best that she possibly could with the tools that she was given. First generation here, I am. And so everybody was, less educated. There wasn't a lot of support. And being in that household after my father had passed away was full of emotional and physical abuse. And child abuse or, those type of things weren't even a thing back then.
No, definitely not.
It was hard, it was hard. I knew that I wanted to do something and I knew I wanted to be something, but I didn't have any examples in front of me. I went to go quit school at 15 years old, and my principal at my school, Chuck Bidell, said, "Oh, you are so funny, LOL," when before LOL was a thing. And he said, "Absolutely not." So, she beat us a lot. And when I was 15, I got emancipated, which thought was an amazing idea. How do you separate legally from your parents? You get emancipated. The one thing I didn't think about was just things like,
how am I going to live?
How do you rent an apartment?
And correct me if I'm wrong here. Going back, I was reading some notes about the judge in the case. Well, normally they would work through a social worker, they would do some evaluations, and the judge didn't want to put you through that shit.
He said in 30 years on the bench, I have never granted a full emancipation with emancipation. I've never granted a full emancipation without taking it under submission. And he said, and today I am doing that because you are so articulate, you are so mature. And he said, you have not moved your eyes away from telling me your story.
Did he take you, did you have conversations with him on the side? What was that? It was just all an open process, open court.
So I didn't, so I guess, by the way, Adam, just so you know, I've never been asked that question before, but let me tell you something. That apparently when you go through an emancipation process, there's a social worker and then there's some court appointed person, whether it be an attorney or a public defender, there's somebody around. I didn't have that. I had my elderly aunt. And so apparently he didn't want to take me in chambers because I was a minor.
Right.
So everything was open.
And if you don't mind sharing, how did your mom even react to this the first time you came to her? Did you even come to her or you just did it on your own?
No, I moved out July 15th and I filed August 2nd, I think, or August 3rd. Actually, August 2nd, because it was my half birthday. And I didn't even, she didn't even know until maybe a year and a half or 2 years later.
Because you were out of the house.
She didn't even ask. Yeah. I didn't tell her. Yeah, I was just completely gone.
Wow. And what was that contact like with her afterwards? Or was it non-existent?
Yeah, no contact. When, here's the thing. My mom was diagnosed much later when diagnosis was an actual thing, okay? She was diagnosed with bipolar with psychosis. And so the conversations were just purely insane.
I can imagine.
They were just, calling me up and screaming at me and telling me all these crazy, awful things. She called me a slut and a whore my first day of kindergarten.
That's not good.
So I was like, so, and then I just was like, oh, okay. And I took my little lunch, my little Holly Hobby lunchbox and went off to school. I didn't know what that meant.
You didn't know what that meant, but that caused deep psychological trauma. So, at the age of 15, 16, how did you take this insane amount of trauma and start to harness it for a positive?
Oh, my love. It wasn't when I was 15 or 16.
Take it, sir.
I was not harnessing it.
Not harnessing much back then.
Anything good. No. I was harnessing survival. Where am I going to eat? I didn't harness it until a lot later, Adam. I'm very open about this. And if this can just help one person, I was angry. I was sad. I was fearful. I was hopeless. I was devastated. I didn't know who I was. Think about this. I lost my nationality and I lost my siblings in a matter of seconds because my stepfather, who my mom was actually married to, she had a totally different life. And all of a sudden I was just completely cut off and I had nobody around me. So I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I wasn't overly positive or willing to engage with anybody.
Was there a moment of positivity? Was there a spark that said, Stephynie, we got to figure this thing out. We need to change things here. We need to move in the right direction. Where did that turn happen? When did it happen? Because it had to be, right? There had to be the turn. There's always a turning point.
I think there was, here's what I think. I think that there was evolvement. That's what I think. I don't think the turning point truly, I can talk about this all day long, Adam. I can tell you, oh yeah, at 16, I was this positive and 17, I was this. I don't think until I had my daughter when I was 22 that I was like, this crap stops now. I will break this chain 1,000 million billion % no matter what I have to do to do it.
Pause on that for a second. I even spoke about this the other day. I made a post about it because my sister-in-law, who I consider my sister, she's just my sister. She had a baby on Friday, and I said to her, my brother-in-law, Graham, I'm like, the moment that you bring a child into this world, you are not the most important human being on the face of the planet. And was that the moment for you?
I would say yes, but then I would caveat it with this, Adam. I've never. So one thing that I'll share with you is that nobody ever goes, oh my God, Stephynie Malik, she is so fun. She's really super fun. That doesn't ever come out of anybody else's mouth. I don't think I learned how to have fun. I don't think I learned how to be irresponsible. I don't think I learned how to let go.
You didn't have an example.
I don't think
time.
I just didn't. Right. And so when you say, was she the most important thing in the world? Yes. But did I ever feel important a day in my life? Did I ever feel fair. I was the most important thing?
There's no way to switch who you're designating importance to when you never felt important before at all.
Exactly.
But was it purpose?
Exactly.
Was it meaning?
Oh
right?
My God. It was literally, I mean, when the doctor told me, I mean, here's a funny story. When the doctor told me I was doing fitness competitions and there's no possible way. I mean, I was taking the pill. I was like doing everything correct. And I went in for my annual exam and she was like, and I was like, yeah,
you got
what?
something cooking here. Some cooking in the oven.
Right. She's like, I go, can you finish the sentence? Finish the sentence. And she called for an ultrasound and I was like, oh my God, I've got cancer. Oh my God, I'm dying. Oh my God, I have a tumor. Oh my God. I was unglued.
Right.
And she came in and put it on my stomach and all that you hear is, she's like, that's a baby. I said, no, it's not. She said, yes, it is. I said, you can say whatever you want.
Way.
It's not a baby.
Crazy how that
she's
happens.
Like, yeah, that baby's 16 and a half weeks and it's a girl.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you have the news of the baby, but at the same time, and if we don't mind digging into it, your relationship wasn't going well at the time.
That's a super loving, sweet way of putting it.
I try to sugarcoat things a little bit here. No, but 11 months, right? Divorced after 11 months.
Yeah, 11 months. Yeah. No,
And
I mean, it wasn't going well. And you know what, Adam? Here's the thing. It wasn't going well and it wasn't his fault. He was very, very much in love and he was very much set that I was the person. And I was way too traumatized to figure out who I was and what I needed. And I spent 11 months trying to get out of the relationship. Like, how do I do this? How do I not break everybody up? How do I not make somebody feel bad?
It's tough.
And then all of a sudden a baby's here and I was like, let's get married.
Doesn't solve any problems. And I'm just curious. I mean, is he still involved in your daughter's life?
He is not. He was gone when she was about 4 months old. I think he tried really hard to figure out what being a daddy was. And I gave him all the tools I possibly could with trying my hardest to be a co-parent or a supporter. He was too angry. He was too mad. He did everything he possibly could to hurt me, and he didn't realize it was hurting her.
Terrible.
They talk. This baby is going to be 27 in January. So they talk, and but there's no real connection at all. He's just kind of like she says, like a distant family friend.
Yeah. Well, at least she has a great example, from her mom growing up. So, I mean, 22 years old having a baby is relatively young, even in these terms. How did you? It's just you and her, right? And what was your first taste of getting into corporate America? I mean, how'd you make the move into corporate America? Let's get to that. Young mom, trying to figure life out. You got a good head on your shoulders. It's in there somewhere, and you're battling through this trauma, this pain, life changing, having a baby, relationship ending. I mean, this is some crazy shit.
Right? What's funny, Adam, is like when people say it, like, I don't have a whole ton of friends, but like my friends are lifelong, like 30-year friends, 20-year friends. And when they repeat it back to me, it sounds crazy. Like, I'm like, wow, how did I get through that? Ignorance is bliss. Let's start with that. So yeah, like she was the greatest thing in the entire world. Amazing personality, just super funny from a very young age. Just a really, really, really great. God gave me exactly what I needed at that moment. So corporate America was interesting. So I started off as an entry-level kind of inside salesperson and really just supporting people. And Adam, I mean, you know this by now, okay? I ask crazy questions. So I'm like, I walk in and I ask things like second day on the job, how can I support you better? What can I do for you that's going to make your life easier? And people are like, whoa.
No one else is
And they were like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, what can I take off your plate? And so I started doing this a lot. And people were like, oh, Steph will do it. Steph will do it. Steph will do it.
So you made yourself invaluable.
Well, I made I felt like I was the one that was really getting the value because I was learning every single person's job. I mean, there's a big story. I'm sure you've heard the story whenever I told the president and the CEO of a company that we were taking public, I said, can I take notes in the board meeting? And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, just, let me take, and they're like, Steph, we have, what?
Yeah, it's not what we do.
Right. And they let me do it. And from that time on, I got invited to every single one of the board meetings because of how I put it into a PowerPoint. So everybody kind of knew what was going on. I learned at 24 years old how to run a board of directors meeting. Like, who knows that? People, I have 40-year-old, 50-year-old people that don't even know what a board of directors differs from a board of advisors or a strategic alliance board. Nobody knows.
And the takeaway here is to take the initiative, right? The takeaway here is to take it and to step up. What's the worst? I always tell people, what's the worst that someone could say? No, like someone's going to look down on you for being ambitious, right? There's obviously a tone and an approach. And I mean, I made some mistakes early on in my career being overly ambitious because I didn't know the right way to approach certain situations. But it comes down to context and it comes down to tone. And you're going to make mistakes early in your career, but don't be scared to take the initiative, because if Stephynie did not take that initiative, she wouldn't have had that seat in the boardroom, and it wouldn't have progressed until all that knowledge that you absorbed and then in turn shared.
Yeah. You know, Adam, here's one thing that I'll tell you that was such a significant thing for me. At the very beginning of the pandemic, I reached out to the 5 most instrumental people in my life when I started, okay? The 5 people I reached out to. And it's not that we haven't spoken throughout these years. We've spoken a lot, but it's more like, hey, Steph, do you know somebody here? Can you make an intro? And absolutely. But like to really sit down and look at somebody's eyes, Adam, and go, I want to look at you, Adam, and I want to sincerely thank you for taking all of that time. Why did you do it? And you know, they don't know each other. They all said the exact same thing. Different vernacular, different tonality, whatever it was, but they all said nothing was never not your job. You were early, you stayed late, you never said that doesn't fall in my job description. You just jumped in and did it. Your work ethic was unparalleled. And I did that with a baby. Yeah. So it's like, there's no excuses. Just do it.
So just kind of, let's take a little left turn over here. It's interesting. I want to get your take on it. And this is just kind of like my litmus test, my sticking my finger in the sauce over here. I feel like I look on LinkedIn, I looked on social media. There's 2 extremes here. There's people trying to achieve great success by not doing much. They figure out the hacks and the optics with the planes and the cars and the cash and everything. And then I'm hearing the other thing too, where it's like, don't get burned out. Don't work overwork. Don't you? You and I would not be where we are if we didn't fucking bust our asses, working our asses off. Is that something we're losing in the workplace right now?
Adam, that's a whole other podcast.
I mean,
don't get me started.
I feel, and I finally feel like the old man in the room where I'm like, this didn't happen. With your side, this just doesn't happen overnight. We built this. We work our asses off, and people think you could do this instantly. And it's all manufactured. It's not the way it works.
If I hear laptop lifestyle or toes in the sand or, 5-hour work week or any of that, that's the most unsustainable bunch of crap I've ever heard. Yeah, it's just, I mean, if you want to do that and you want to learn and you want to gain, go ahead, go do it. But don't act like that's a sustainable lifelong business. Like, what do you want for your life in 5 years? Yeah. Like, I wanted freedom. I wanted to be at every kid's game and every kid's recital. I wanted to be at every kid's prom and spring break. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be a present mom, not a nanny mom.
I mean, I couldn't have the lifestyle. I have a lifestyle business. I couldn't do what I do now if I didn't have 23 years of work experience behind me. Right. I couldn't launch my own business and be successful at it. Listen, there's a very small percentage of people who either don't go to college or come out of school and immediately, get that $1 billion valuation or launch the next freaking Tesla. Right. Like, that's not the way it works. But social media has you believe it that way.
Well, because social media has one trajectory and it's this. They don't tell you all the, ups and downs. And that's kind of, Adam, now that you bring that up, I think I told you this whenever we met, when we were together in New York. I had just done this Forbes panel and Forbes asked me, they said, hey, how do you choose a really great executive or business coach? And I said, talk about their failures. Talk about, if they're willing to talk about their failures and they're willing to talk about their losses and they're willing to talk about how many times they blow it in detail, just as much as their wins, then, and you have chemistry and that person's been there and done that, that's the coach for you. Stop telling me about all your wins. I want to hear about your losses.
And that's the other piece too. And the coaching thing is interesting too, because we saw it in the pandemic. There was a lot of people that came out of the woodwork, with all the coaching programs and pyramids and all that kind of stuff there too. When you're looking for a coach, 2 things: A, to your point, someone who's going to talk about their failures, and B, look for somebody who is at or has already achieved the level of success that you're aiming for.
Yes.
That's what you're looking for, right? Like, I don't need somebody like, that's the reason I have a podcast. It's called the Pos Course. That's why I'm finally teaching about podcasting, because the last 3 years I built it, I put it together, and I have actual social credibility and proof. I book clients from the show. Now I'm finally in a position to teach it. Don't find somebody who's never put a podcast out before trying to teach you how to do podcasting and through business development. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Exactly. And if I hear the word coach one more time, my whole face will crack in half because when you have a money, like I was talking to this woman the other day and she's like, oh my gosh, my daughter's a money coach. And I was like,
how much money does she have?
How old is your daughter? And she's like 26. And I was like, I can't have the conversation.
I saw something similar about a money coach where if someone's trying to coach you on financial, they should be able to show you their returns from the last year. Show me your returns. Show me your client list. Show me this. So let me ask you this. This is a crazy story. Tell us about your first coaching experience, how you uncovered a pretty massive scandal. Tell us about that. This is a good one. Let's get it.
Oh, yeah. That was the entire pivotal point of the company, Adam. That's how I actually got into the whole crisis thing. So it's a very long story. I'm going to give you the super short version. And if you want, you can ask me questions. I got brought in by venture capitalists who who was having some issues with executive connection, with performance. And they said, hey, can you come in? Absolutely. I've known this guy for 20 years. He's a pseudo father to me, the greatest guy ever. Like he controls billions and billions of dollars, just fabulous. And I go in and I instantly, and I've been spending my entire life trying to figure out the secret sauce and how to articulate this, but I know when somebody is full of crap within 3 seconds of being next to them.
You can sniff it.
Okay. So I just walked in and I could just tell by the way he was acting, like he was cagey. And I was like, hey, why are you looking for a coach? Why are you looking for a high impact performance coach? And he gave me all, like, I think he Googled it. Okay. I think he was like, why do I need, and so he basically starts giving me these answers and I kind of looked at him and I reached across the table and I held his hands and I said, look at me, look at my eyes. I said, where are you struggling? Are you struggling at home? Are you struggling at the office? Are you struggling around family relationships? Are you struggling on business dynamics? Like, talk to me. And he goes, I have no struggle. He's like, I'm at 35% over my numbers. He's like, I have a very low turnover. And I said, okay, that sounds great. I said, so why am I here? And he's like, because they want you here. And I was like, oh, they. So I said, okay, let's just sit down and talk. So we go to lunch and he starts talking about certain things that I know to not necessarily be 100% truthful.
Like, factually that these are not true.
I know there are certain dynamics on social media where you time mark things and where you have said that you've been and where things, like just those type of things. And I just quickly looked at it and it didn't add up. So I asked to see his financial corporate card. And within 3 minutes, I knew that there was some giant errors. Within 3 days, I had discovered about $3 million in errors. And within 30 days, I had seen $36 million in errors. Yeah. So we did what we needed to do. I'm very pleased, deeply, deeply pleased to say none of this ever made the media. None of this ever made papers. We were able to handle it very privately, but still massive consequence. The company was paid back every single cent and 13% restitution.
Figured out.
So it was a significant thing.
So,
okay. And when I got back, he said, we're in business. And I said, what does that even mean? And he said, do you have any idea? This is one. Do you have any idea how many people are going through a very similar thing? And I said, people do this stuff, like they just steal money and bid rig and they skim and they
boondogglicious. That's what we call it.
And that's it.
Corporate boondoggle. Yeah, this is big time. And is that, that's crisis management. You managed the crisis and you're not necessarily helping the bad guy win, right? Do you ever feel that?
No. It's not about, so that's actually a really great point. Let's talk about that.
That's why I went there.
I'm not some like fairy godmother. And by the way, you're
not like Winston Wolfe. You're not Winston Wolfe, right?
I'm not trying to, what I'm trying to
do
is.
We're not getting rid of the bodies.
I'm not, no, Ray Donovan is not me. That is not who I am.
Ray Donovan. Sad to see it go.
So the person who has caused the crisis still has consequences. The difference is that their wives that are going through chemo or a brain tumor are not having paparazzi wait outside of their treatment. Their minor children that are 7, 9, and 13 don't have paparazzi waiting outside of their schools. They still get a consequence. They are just their families are handled very privately with a lot of care and concern because they ultimately were not the cause of this.
Why should they suffer?
Exactly. Right. I mean, they're kids,
like kids shouldn't have to carry the mistakes of their parents.
By the way, I don't want to sound sexist at this at all because we've had 39 clients and only one out of the 39 clients have ever gotten to media. One ever. Everything else has never gotten to media. But there has been women too. It's about a third women and 2/3 men.
Yeah, I mean, no one's immune to greed
and
corruption. I mean, especially when you're at these high levels, because I hate to say it, it's kind of easy and it's very enticing when those are big numbers in front of you. It's real.
Men want recognition and women want relevance.
That's what it comes out to. So let's break it down for anyone who doesn't really know, because crisis management's a pretty broad term. Let's define it and break it down. Well, could you define it and break it down? I'm not.
I'm like, are you doing that or am I doing that?
By let's, I mean you.
Let's together. Let's do this.
I'll listen and you talk.
Okay. Crisis management, what we do is mostly, I would say 70% white collar crimes. So usually it just usually breaks down to
fraud.
Money. It breaks down to finance. Money laundering, bid rigging, skimming, RICO, college admissions scandal, think of things like that.
Lori Loughlin scandal.
Yeah.
That was bad. That was ugly.
Yeah.
Her daughter really didn't help either, but we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Didn't really help.
Ponzi schemes, financial, moving money, shell companies, stuff like that. Then the other 30% is kind of random. So I'm going to break it down like this. 20% is generally an athlete or celebrity, and it generally has to do with fidelity, and it has to do with meeting with the divorce attorneys. Divorce attorneys, family law attorneys don't necessarily have the absolute best reputation at handling things quickly, and you cannot fight an emotional argument with facts. So a lot of the times I get brought in to, I don't want to say mediate, but hear their pain and their hurt and put it into a business concept to where we can move things along. And then the other 10% is kind of everything else, where it's a contract dispute. We've done several things around DEI, around audits and around kind of cultural things that have happened. What we do together, Adam, so Stephynie, Malik, why use us, Malik, right? 3 things. Number 1, we negotiate. So you think about the huge bills, the $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 an hour attorney bills. We have 65 global attorneys that love working with us. So that rate is 50 to 70% less, number 1. Number 2, 70% of the time we're able to do a fixed rate.
Flat rate.
Which is an amazing thing. It's phenomenal. Third thing is that we know all of these attorneys backwards and forwards. You may get very nervous about firing your attorney. I don't get nervous about firing your attorney. So if you commit to me that you have time, I don't want some junior associate working on it. I want you working on it.
You want the best.
So that's number 3. Number 4, we have asset managers in all of our professional services. They're all set up. So like, for example, when we have to liquidate a Lamborghini or a yacht or a plane, usually the brokerage fee for that is anywhere from 7 to 12%. Ours is usually 1 to 3%. So we have a lot of built-in, really white glove. Think concierge white glove and getting
it's
things
all
done.
in, and there's obviously a premium on top of it. You're saving, but you're also there's a built-in cost to that, right?
There's a built-in cost, but we just did a cost analysis. Our last 3 cases that have been over $60 million of fraud or whatever you want to call it, whatever the thing was, we've settled every one of those for under $1 million. So the cost savings is ridiculous.
Hey everybody, first I'd like to thank you all for spending time with me and my guest on the podcast. This show is my canvas to showcase amazing people from the world of recruiting, entrepreneurship, and leadership, and unpack their career journeys for everyone to learn from. But this show is also a business generator for me, as well as creating thought leadership and endless amazing content. And I've taken what I've learned in the past 3 years and over 200 recorded and 100 live shows and distilled it down into a digital playbook that I call the Pause Course. Now you could learn how I build, manage, and produce the podcast and use it to drive real business development and relationships. Today, I'm sharing all of my secrets behind the podcast, and you can get it all at thepausecourse.com. This course is for anyone, whether you're starting out or an advanced podcaster, you're using it for B2B and B2C. It's filled with all of my insights, learnings, tips, tricks, and templates. So get it now at thepozcourse.com and learn all my secrets. Thanks. So pause here for a second. Mm-hmm. What is your superpower that enables you to be in this place of managing crisis so well? Like, where does this come from? What is this superpower that you have?
So earlier,
like, how's this your calling? Like, not everyone just falls into the world of, crisis management, and it takes a special person. It takes a Ray Donovan, it takes a Winston Wolfe.
I think that reading people really well, reading all of the things that are not being said, asking questions that people are terrified to ask. I mean, the reason why I didn't finish law school, here's the reason why I didn't finish law school. You have to take this ethics thing, and you're not allowed to ask certain questions. Like, attorney will never ask you, are you guilty? Did you do it? They're never going to ask you that. I have no problem saying just tell me the story. Like, I'm not going to judge you. There's no judgment.
The more you tell me,
here.
the better I could help you.
That's it. Don't pay me all of this money and then lie to me, because I'm going to charge you for the time you lied
and
I'm
going to find out, because that's what I do.
And I find out in 24 to 48 hours.
The forensics and the digital forensics, it's all there.
Forget the digital. We found stuff from like 1967. Yeah. Like, just tell me what it is, because I'm going to find out. In 39 cases, it's taken me 2 days to come back and tell me you're not truthful. And then I will 1000% up your retainer, and then I will 1000% make sure that your attorneys are taken care of. Don't lie. Don't come to me and seek me out and then look at me and lie to me. I'm on your side.
Polygraph. So
that's so funny. That's what the attorneys say. They're like, get Steph. She'll be able to tell if he's lying.
25 plus years of experience. What's a big lesson that the average business owner could learn from your experience? Like, what's a good crisis management kind of, approach, mindset? Because we all go through shit. There's time. I mean, I'm a business owner the last 4.5 years, and there's times when you're like, this isn't good. We lost a client. We lost a candidate. It's going to come back. Like, I mean, is there a mindset? Is there an approach? What's a good best practice? And no matter how big, because listen, a crisis to me could be the end of the world, but to somebody else on a much bigger scale, it's a spit in the bucket. It's everyday kind of occurrence.
I can't believe you asked me for one, Adam. What am I supposed to do with that?
It's called the golden nugget, my friend.
Let's see. I mean, I'm going to give you a soft one and a hard one, okay? I'm going to say maintain empathy and practice it every single day. Like when I blow it, I come to you and go, Adam, I blew it. Here's what I was trying to do, and here's what happened. I signal early to let you know we have an issue.
It's called accountability and managing expectations rolled into that, right? Like, if you fuck up in a business, come clean. The sooner, same thing in a relationship, right? I learned that early on with my wife. Just come clean, get out of the way, don't lie about it, and let's address this quickly and handle it. People mess up. We're human, right? We're fallible.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, exactly. And so that's number one. And then I would say number two, for crisis management, this is the number one thing that I say about this. People pay a crap ton of money to get out of something, and they pay no money to get into something. So establish your team, establish your tree. Who are going to be your go-to people when, crap hits the fan? Who are you going to call? And then, so say my tree is Adam's at the top. So I'm calling Adam. Adam, who are you calling? Who are the 2 or 3 people?
Sorry.
Exactly.
Anytime I can't, it's just like, it's like an impulse thing. I have to say it. It's sorry. Just when everyone says who you're going to call.
Really good, you would have played this song.
I'll do it in post-production. It's fine.
Okay.
Editor note, add in Ghostbusters music, original theme. Thank you. Cut, timestamp, click. Yeah.
So yeah, I think I think your tree is so important. And what's the message? So I'm going to tell Adam everything. I'm going to give Adam the complete raw data. But what is Adam going to tell the next 3 people? And then how do we message it? Establish your tree, establish the understanding. If you have a great parameter set around you and your company and your team, it doesn't become a PR thing. PR is not needed if you have an absolutely amazing team that knows how to process the distress and the stress. And the last thing I'll say is, bad news does not get better with time.
It does not age like a fine wine.
No, it does not.
That is some great advice there. So let's switch it up a little bit and let's talk about, executive coaching. And I feel like this has just been a natural progression of you working close to so many senior leaders. But executive presence, this is an interesting one. I mean, I've seen executive presence. I mean, my career, and we'll talk about it when I'm on your show next week. I've had a very interesting run where I've worked at companies. I've seen, the head of SiriusXM. I'm literally drawing Mel Karmazin in boardrooms, like huge mega CEOs, the head of American Express. And then I sit in a business pitch with Gary Vaynerchuk. Very different levels of executive presence. But there's a common thread, in my opinion. It's confidence and how they kind of present that confidence. So let's talk about your take on executive presence and how could someone build it? I don't want to use the word create, but build that executive presence and grow into it.
How about
develop? That's a good word. Thank you. Mr. Thesaurus over there.
So, yeah, right?
How about develop? Because that's probably the word you're looking for. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah. So develop. So executive presence is really you nailed it. I mean, it's a confidence issue. It's what are you confident speaking about? What are you confident asking? Who are you as a person? And so I handle things. You know what? Let me take a step back.
Sure.
I'm not like, I don't even like talking about the word coach. Coach is so triggering for me. I feel like I'm going to need therapy about it. Like it's such a ridiculous
term. It's so diluted
term.
and just, we could agree on that one.
Ridiculous.
Let's agree on that. Right.
It's just ridiculous. So yes, do I do coaching? Yes. What I call it is performance consulting.
Sure.
And it's really your best measurement of success. So people go in and go, hey, I actually have a measurement. We have a methodology. We have a roadmap. We actually have metrics. Right. You have to hit the metrics. Coaching is so like a more intense version of therapy. That's not who I am. I go, where are you? Meeting you where you are. Where do you want to be? Is that possible? Let's go. And so every single week within 2 weeks, people will say, what is different about you? 2 weeks, every single client. What is happening? Are you okay? Are you taking meds? Are you like, what's going on? You're so calm. Yes. Yeah, right. Exactly. So thinking about that, presence is about you, and it's about who you want to be. It's about honing in on your inner chameleon.
I like the chameleon. We'll put a pin in that one. Mm-hmm.
Where are you going? You will act different at a picnic, at a wedding, in a boardroom, with a team, with bosses. Like you have to be very confident in who you are. Now, as you're practicing these things, I have 3 techniques. Okay. The first thing is you practice with your eyes first. So watch every single person. Are they jokey? Are they serious? Are they stoic? Do they take notes? Do they not take notes? Are they fidgety? Really, really pay attention to that, okay? The second thing is think of 2 or 3 provocative questions that you really want to know. So the worst thing is somebody goes, I have to run out the door, but I don't want Adam to think I'm a big fat jerk. So I'm going to look at Adam and I'm going to go, hey, Adam, really nice haircut. Did you do something new? Like, do you really care? Like, shut up. Like, that's the dumbest thing in the entire world. So ask a question that you want to know, because then that person hears that question and then they look at you and then stop. Don't fill the conversation. Don't fill the silence.
The pause. The power of the pause, people.
Just take a break. And make sure that your body is relaxed and make sure that you're engaged. Look at Adam. Look at his eyes. And I mean, now I don't really care. So now I'm like, Adam, are you like, look at me? Or I'll like knock the phone out of your hand or, whatever, go pay attention to me.
Funny.
Back then I didn't do that. So when you're really kind of focusing in on who you are and how you want to be seen, think of this: perceived. How are you perceived? And how are you received? So how are people hearing you and seeing you? And if you want that to be different, start looking, just like you said earlier in the show, start looking at people that you admire. Start looking at people who are doing it well, that you think are doing it well, and pay attention to, don't be creepy, but pay attention to who they are.
And you're not saying, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not saying fake it till you make it. That's not what this is. I hate that expression more than life itself. It's not fake it till you make it. You make it till you make it, right? Like that's kind of, you do it. You don't fake it.
You evolve.
You evolve.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
I'm curious about, what are some of the new crises that have come up during the pandemic in the last couple of years? Some kind of unique situations. I want to shed some light on those.
Are you talking about in the news or that I've dealt with?
You have dealt with. We will use fake names to protect the innocent and not so innocent.
Okay, well, so we have...
Not so innocent.
I'm like, I love that you just asked me that question. I'm like, so we have a couple. Here's what I'm going to do because I can't talk about them, obviously.
Let's use hypotheticals.
I'm going to say we have two hotels. Right. Just go Google. We have 2 money laundering. And we have a fairly significant insurance kickback. We also have, and we're not sure that we're actually going to take this one yet. We're actually going to be meeting tomorrow and would you believe on Thursday,
nothing like a
with
Thanksgiving
a possible,
meeting.
I know, right?
Word to
right?
your bird.
With a possible wrongful death, but we're not 100% sure we're going to actually take that one on. But that did happen with a medical professional.
But how are you handling things differently during the pandemic? I mean, is there anything different, or kind of getting back to?
So people don't like to talk about crisis on Zoom, which, you don't usually get on Zoom and go, yep, I totally wired fraud all that money, Steph.
There's a
totally
filter here. There's something here. I mean, you and I are used to this where we could be true and authentic, but a lot of people aren't. I mean, it gives you almost an excuse to not be truthful. You don't see what's happening. Right?
Well, and I think also too, Adam, in all fairness, we're not hiding anything.
True.
So if we were hiding something that we didn't want the world to know, we may not be so fluid on these conversations. Correct. What, for me, in being a professional services person, I'm not 1,000% sure that what you're telling me is secure. And because I'm most often always on the defense team, I have to make sure that privilege is maintained at all costs. So my business for crisis went significantly in the pooper, if you will.
You couldn't be on in face-to-face as much.
I couldn't be next to them. Right. I couldn't be talking to their husbands and their wives.
Without electronic communications, literally having that real conversation.
That's exactly right.
So what did you do to compensate for that?
So we pivoted a bit. We came out with, so let me finish that really quick. Federal court was mostly closed. So it wasn't like there was a bunch of clients. Federal court closed down. So now we're kind of working our way back up. As far as coaching goes or performance consulting or any of those kind of high impact things that I do, I need to be in front. These are people that are getting ready to IPO. Mm-hmm. These are well-funded entrepreneurs. These are, presidents and CEOs of Fortune 100, 500 companies. I need to see how they're interacting with their peers, with their board, with their clients, with their vendors. I need to see what's off in their body language and their tonality. I need to look at those things. So that went completely by the wayside. One of the biggest things that we did during the pandemic is I wanted to give back significantly. And I kept hearing from all of these C-suite, geez, I can't even speak, from all of those C-suite people, hey, Steph, everybody keeps asking for a promotion. These millennials, they're asking for a promotion.
Everyone's demanding. They want mine. I want mine. I'm overdue. Even though they're underdue.
And they're underdue. And it's funny. So I said, okay, great. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to ask some questions. Say, what about my job is so enticing?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you hear, what about my job do you love and you can't wait to get to? It's title and money.
Prestige.
Yeah. And so once you back down from that and go, what's the real value of being in this C-suite position or being the next VP? What we found out is these millennials are not ready. They're not ready. Forget about the money and the title. They're not ready for the pressure. They're not ready for the training, for the development. Right. So, hey, Steph, can you create some courses? And I was like, Adam, you would have died laughing. I was like, yeah,
sure.
Totally. I can absolutely. And then I started to do it. It was so hard.
Why?
I was like, here's why it was hard. Where are you? Am I talking to a 30-year-old from Harvard or I'm talking to a 27-year-old that never went to college? It's been scrappy since they were 18. And so I was like, I was literally.
You're trying to bucket people. You're trying to bucket into you're trying to generalize, and that's not the way to handle it. It's individualized. Each one of these conversations and situations is different when people are looking for promotion. Some people deserve it and some people don't, and you have to get to the bottom of it.
Right.
And that's something that we've seen from the talent perspective too, and not to go too off tangent here, where companies are hiring because of the quote unquote labor shortage, which is a whole other story. They're overpaying. Right, they're overpaying for talent, and they're giving somebody who is technically a manager level, director level, and they're throwing them in. And when the rubber hits the road, that person is not able to handle a director level job and having director level conversations internally within an organization or externally with clients. You can't throw a 25-year-old against a 33-year-old MBA brand manager over at Unilever. It's not going to work. there's going to be a disconnect.
So
some can step up into it and some can't.
So such an incredible point. So I was 26 years old. I was the youngest director in Silicon Valley at a publicly traded company. The next person on my team that I managed, the next person was 11 years my senior and been with the company for 7 years.
To swallow.
I walked in to a meeting and I said, I wanted to go over my P&L with everybody. Not my P&L, because I didn't know what it meant. I had zero direction. I had zero mentorship. But you know how I got promoted? Attrition. Now, I had no business managing or directing anything at all. But I will tell you, back in the day, I had so many people willing to like show me, and I was willing to slow down and listen and take their direction and their mentorship.
That's the takeaway here. So Steph, let's bring it home here. I mean, we could spend hours talking and digging into so many different tangents here. And for me, you know, I say it on every time I get to this question, this podcast is my masterclass. I learn through listening. I learn through osmosis. I learn from interviewing great folks like yourself who have the wisdom and experience that I may not have. And I love to ask this question. What is the single greatest piece of advice that you've ever received that you take action on every single day? It could be a mantra, something you wake up and this is like, law.
You're going to be so disappointed.
Well, let's pause here. Editor, I want you to make a note to make sure that we remove this because she's about to say something terrible.
I am. I'm like, can we start playing Ghostbuster again? Let's just start playing Ghostbuster. Protect your time. Protect your time is, I'm going to say it until I am blue in the face. Protect your time. Be very careful who you associate with. You truly are the sum of those 5 people. I don't care what anybody says. I will fight, argue.
Sure.
I will come to blows with anybody. You are the sum of those 5 people. Make sure you're the dumbest one in the room. Grow, learn, be a sponge. Yep. Protect your time. Do not continue to scroll. You are scrolling aimlessly, comparing yourself against people that you don't even know if they're full of crap or not.
Welcome
Stop
to social media. That's powerful advice. And I preach this as well there too. We all, and you've seen the cliches and the quotes out there, we all have the same amount of time during the day, right? You cannot manufacture time. You cannot create more of it. No. So how do you manage the time that you have and use it best? Because it's valuable. That's tremendous advice. So last but not least, Stephynie, you know, you look back on your life and you think about the shit pit. You think about your childhood and the trauma and those low points when you didn't really know where you're going to sleep or how you're going to live or how you're going to make it to the next day. Those really tough times, and you had to pull yourself up, and you had to harness that inner tenacity, that fire that I see every single day that comes clear to everybody who meets you and works with you. And on the flip side, now success, happiness, children. How do you show gratitude? What keeps you in focus? Stephynie Malik, what is your North Star?
Impacting and inspiring. And people say, so I'm sensitive to this as well, okay? People say, I want to impact and inspire. How? Mine is not a why. Mine is a how. And the reason why mine is not a why is because why is easy once you start doing the homework. Why is easy. How will you do it? When I inspire and I impact people as a leader, I want to give them direct belief in themselves. I want them to understand that they have what it takes to get to their best measurement of success. Their, not mine. And that is for me, when I'm working with an executive or when I'm doing in a speaking engagement and you connect with that one person in the room when you're speaking, okay? You see that light go off. You see that spark. You see where they're like, it just all came together. It's like this giant puzzle that came together and like you can't, I get chills. Every time I talk about it, I get chills. The how is so important because people talk about inspire, impact, but how are you going to do it? And I'm going to do it based on other people's, other leaders, other high achievers, how they need to receive it to believe in themselves.
Powerful. And it's so interesting that you mentioned the how, because I talk about the how all the time. The why, most of us could define. The why for me is this, my kids, why I do everything. But the how is how you show up every day, how you present yourself, how you go about your day-to-day actions in your life. I love it. Stephynie, this has been incredible. We could talk for hours, but we got to bring this home here because guess what? The average listener, 43 minutes in, they're done with the podcast, but they can listen forever. But let's bring it home here. I want to thank you so much for joining me. This has been fantastic. I'm excited to continue to build our relationship, excited to come on your show next week and introduce our audiences to each other and just expand. I'm a true believer. You know, our dear friend Hala, her and I deeply believe in collaboration over competition. There's so many ears, eyeballs out there, and we have so much wisdom to learn from. Stephynie, where could folks find you? Where could they connect with you? Where could they learn more?
Absolutely. So Stephynie with a Y. So STEPHYNIE, Malik, on everything. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. And Adam, I don't know if you know this or not, but I believe Britta created a special offer for everybody who is listening at 30% off for the course for the EP. So executive presence, business acumen. If anybody wants to take a look at the class, we have group coaching and we have just the actual kind of go on your own. Your listeners will get 30% off. Just use the word podcast.
With a Z, podcast. And I will link that up in the show notes. That'll be linked up everywhere. It's a very generous offer. Thank you so much. Stephynie, hang with me for a moment here as I sign off. I want to thank everybody for hanging with Stephynie and I for the last 48 minutes and 19 seconds. I appreciate your time. We really do. We're talking about time before, and I really hope that you have learned something from this conversation. Definitely connect with Stephynie. She is a wealth of wisdom. Listen, sharing means caring. So if you like this episode, please share it with a friend. It goes a long way. And if you like it, leave a review, a rating. That helps me, and I appreciate it. Remember, find everything at thepodcast.com, all of our social media channels. Take care of each other, look out for one another, and catch us next week for another good episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.